Good morning, Mel. Are you both okay? Good morning, Lorna, if you're watching. Good morning, Douglas. Nice to see you. Hope you're okay. Good morning, Michael. I'll discuss your follow-through a little bit today. Hi, Jean. Hope you're okay. Quite a nice morning, actually. We walked down your road yesterday. Remarkable how quiet it was. Good morning, George. Good morning, Helen. Swing at the ready. I like it. Yeah, it's remarkable how quiet Teddington feels there, Jean. Alrighty, so it's what time? It's just 2 minutes past. Got quite a few of you online this morning for the senior swing. Got loads of tips. I've got some great stuff for you today, actually. I've really enjoyed the research on this one. There's tons out there of reference points for the world's best players. I've also got some quite quirky stuff to show you as well today. Make sure you don't smash the chandeliers there, Helen. Good morning, Don. Please wait for the drive. I will do next time. Alrighty, give it a couple more minutes for the late starters. Then we'll get going. It's 3 minutes past now. Okay, won't be long. Can you see and hear me okay in this light here? Good morning, Ian. If one of you just say that you can see and hear okay. If I stand here and talk, you can see and hear everything. Good morning, David. Should say 5. Morning, Richard. Oh, good. Thanks, Quentin. Alrighty, let's get started, shall we? What time is it now? It's 5 past. Morning, John. Looking forward to some more poetry from you soon. Alrighty, well, a very warm welcome to you to the senior swing. Like I said, I've done tons of research on this and had some good results from what I've seen so far. And my favourite line was from Lee Trevino, and he said his swing now is so slow he couldn't get a speeding ticket driving past a children's school. So it happens to everybody. Everyone ages and gets slower. If you look at the remarkable swings that go on forever, Tom Watson, I'm going to reference him a lot today. Jim Furyk, Jack Nicklaus, all these long careers that these people have, they made many changes throughout their career to cope with the changes in their body and also the injuries that they had in their body. As many of you know, I do a lot of work with the On Course Foundation, where I teach golf to disabled soldiers, and we found many different ways of helping disabled servicemen to play the game, just to create power. So the principles of gaining power never change. We have to hit the ball very squarely. It doesn't matter how fast you swing or how powerfully built you are or what have you. If you do not strike that ball squarely, and your obsession should always be about striking the golf ball squarely. If you don't strike it squarely, you lose distance and you lose power. And that trumps anything in your body if you're losing distance or power through age or through an injury or what have you. If you're not striking it squarely, then nothing else matters. So we can work around all sorts of injuries, changes in the body, a great deal in golf. And the beauty is, I learned this very early on with the On Course Foundation, because every part and every muscle of the body is used in golf. If you do have an injury somewhere, or you're restrained somewhere, or you had an operation, we can use different parts of the body to take the pressure. Alrighty, so the other thing as well, I've always thought this, you don't have to do too much research to see a very strong pattern here. Many of the world's best players live into a ripe old age and play golf right into ripe old age. I mean, Hogan was 85 when he died, and a very heavy smoker, Ben Hogan. Palmer was a heavy smoker, died at 87. Snead, 90, another heavy smoker. Look at Gary Player, what an advert he is for living well and playing golf. Into his 80s now and still looks fit and healthy. Jack Nicklaus, I met him last year, shook his hand, and it's still absolutely vice-like strong. So golf does keep people healthy. Now, I teach a lady doctor here, and she was saying that it's something to do with this movement in front of the body, which keeps the body fired up. Whether or not that's ever going to be provable for us, would be great for the game if so. Alrighty, so I've got lots of ways of keeping the swing powerful. I'm just going to start off with some pictures that I had the other day of Annika Sorenstam. Just here. She's just hit a shot there. She's hitting a wedge. And I want to look at her face. I used these pictures for Lady Golfers on Tuesday last week. And again, look at this picture here. And there's two things I really liked about that picture. The first is that she's moving her head, so she's keeping flexibility and mobility in her swing. And secondly, look how relaxed her face is. I mean, there is no tension there. So, as you age, or as we see golfers age, the swing naturally shortens. And the shorter the movement, the less power is generated. So we need to create speed in the swing through a longer movement. First thing I want you to do is, if you have got a golf club at home, is hold it. Don't grip it. And I never refer to that part of the club as the grip. I call it the hold. And so if we talk about the hold and the handle, that trains the brain to hold the club to create power. Now, power comes from many different sources. The world's biggest hitters, the guys who hit the ball 400 yards, move their body in a way 99% of golfers will never be able to do. They move their body in such an aggressive sort of range of motions that they're leaping off their feet at impact. So if I just show you very briefly a picture of what they do, these big hitters. I mean, look at the stretch in those bodies there. These are guys hitting the ball 400 yards. That's the second hole on our golf course. Now look at this twist in the stretch. There. And then if we go... Where is it? I can't find the picture I'm looking for. But they move their bodies so aggressively that we can't do that. So we have to move our bodies in a slightly different way. So the Annika Sorenstam picture is great. She's relaxed in the face. She's not gripping the club. There's no tension there. And she's moving the head. She's got 1980 at the height of his power. So what's the first thing he does to create more power and range of motion? Is he stands narrower to allow his body to rotate better. The wider the stance, the more pressure that puts on the body. And that's why the massive hitters of the ball Interestingly, 2 players gone over the past 5 minutes. The big hitters of the ball stand very aggressively because their body can take it. And when Watson was a huge hitter back in the day. Big wide stands, they stand powerfully and aggressively. As we age, stand narrower, and that frees up a bit more movement. So already, if you're holding the club lighter and your stance is narrower, you're going to increase the range of motion in the swing. If we then go again to Watson, and now what I want you to do is look at the 4th picture along, so the picture near my glove hand here, and look at the difference in 2 things. The first is the bend in his glove arm, and as a consequence of that, look at the difference in the height of his hands compared to his head. I'll zoom in on that picture. And this really is the crux of it all today. So the picture here, the bend in the left arm, and the height of the hands relative to his head. So, what's he done there? To increase the length of his swing, he's allowed his left arm to bend. Now, the longer the journey the club head goes on, ordinarily, the more power it creates. There are some exceptions to that rule. So what Watson does is, as he swings, with his narrower stance to allow his body to have more range, he just softens that left arm a bit and lets the club hang down here. At the peak of his powers, when he was so fit, he'd have his hands very high up here, and the wider the arc, the more power he generates. But he couldn't do it anymore. To get into that position now for him so difficult, so he compromises his swing a little bit to try and find power from a different source. Now, when I use the word optimum, I'm talking about what's the optimum source of power. There are other ways of creating power in a golf swing where you don't need to optimize or put the body into such a strained position. And you can just have a good look at that picture again there and look at the difference between the height of his hands compared to his head and the softness in that arm. Now, the picture at the top is him as a supreme athlete at the peak of his powers, putting his body into all sorts of positions. So, if we then look at these 4 pictures here, so the follow-throughs at the end, over here, just after impact, look at the difference in the curve on his body in the top picture compared to the curve in his body in the bottom picture. In the top picture here, you see a huge bend in his back, a lot of strain in his back there. In this picture here, he's trying hard not to have that strain. And then he shows in this position here when he finishes now, he stands tall. In the old days, he swung with a big curve. Now, that's 2 things. That's the teaching of the game, the swing has changed, and also he's trying to preserve his back. That position there, and a follow-through with a curve here, was old-fashioned, is how pros generated a bit more power back in the day. They drove their legs and flicked underneath the ball to finish in this, what we call a reverse C position here. But even as I'm doing that now, I can feel the crunch and the strain on my back. So what's he done? Narrowed the stance, softened the hands, softened the elbow, and as he's followed through, he's finished in an upright position here, in a soft position. He's not putting strain onto his back. So just to show you there how much things have changed. This book here was written by a chap called Jim Flick, who coached Jack Nicklaus. And look at that picture on the right-hand side there. Finish like a pro. This is Jim Flick's book, Finish Like a Pro. And then look at the curve in one of the best players of that generation, Tom Kite. Look at the curve on that spine. And look at the strain there. And also look how long the club is wrapped around. I mean, it just gives you backache looking at that, doesn't it? And so Watson changed his swing over the years dramatically. And like I said to you in the other video sessions that we've done, the pros are always changing, always fiddling, always looking for something different to do in their swing. And we should do the same thing. Now, as we age, we've got to try and find those power sources. Now, look at Phil Mickelson here. Look at that picture. Just look at the bend in his glove arm, his right arm. So stiffness isn't good in a golf swing. Now, again, here's Watson back in his pomp. And look how straight that left arm is, and look how high his hands are above his body. That's the optimum source for power, but we can't all do that. So as he aged, he softened it. And so you can see that bend in the left arm. It's a massive source of energy and power in the swing there as we age. And you can also see the club dipping over his shoulder there. So he's actually overswinging. So what do I mean by that? We create a lever here with the shaft of the club, the glove arm. As we swing up the top here, we create that lever to be released on the return to the swing. Now, if I swing too far around here, I lose sight of the ball. As I come back down, I'm going to have to try and locate it again. But the top pros will actually overswing deliberately around here, taking the club beyond horizontal. Horizontal is the norm for most amateur golfers, the absolute limit of their swing.